Everyone, it's Hem from the Self-Love Self-Care System with our conversations with experts. Today I have Andy Brine with me. He's our guest. He is a mentor, healer guide who helps people connect with their spiritual journey as they awaken to who they really are. He developed the soul pathway as an evolution from the work of Joseph Campbell in order to assist people in understanding themselves at a deeper level. Though our journey is not linear, this process provides a roadmap for connecting with it from the human experience. Andy has an Awaken Your Soul Pathway app, which is available online and on Android. He also has numerous courses on Udemy, Archetypes for Life, Honoring and Healing Your Shadow, Awaken Your Inner Warrior, Balance Your Masculine and Feminine Within, and the Journey of Divine Love for Soulmates and Twin Flames. And he offers online sessions for mentoring and healing, as well as spiritual workshops. It's his role to assist you with disconnecting from your mind to reconnect with your heart and your soul. He is also a personal believer that your shadow is the pathway to unconditional self-love and acceptance. So hello, Andy. Welcome. So
yeah,
how are you today?
Very good. Yeah, it's a nice, relaxing day, and just settling in to have this self-love session.
That's lovely.
With
So,
you
Andy,
today.
well, let's get to it then. We're going to ask Andy some questions and find out a few things about what he offers, and maybe get a little bit of experience around some of these things if we don't know about them. So, Andy, tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey to becoming a healer.
Myself and my journey to becoming a healer. Interesting. I'd say it started before I even became spiritual in a way. University had a huge breakup, and it was like so many relationships we all know, heartbreaking,
Yeah.
and it took me to some dark places that, quite honestly, I didn't want to go,
Yeah.
and caused me to look at things about myself that I may not have wanted to see. And I'm quite a sensitive soul anyway, so this started my journey of self-discovery more than anything, I would say, and healing. But I began learning about hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming to start off with. And that wasn't so much spiritual, but it was incredibly enlightening. When it comes to hypnotherapy, I start to realize that, and we'll speak about this throughout the call anyway, but hypnotherapy is really about understanding our own unconscious. And our own unconscious is where all of our memories are hidden, and most of us don't think about our unconscious. But as we go about on our journey, and as I went about on my journey, I started to find out more about myself and what I was experiencing. And as I went about my journey, I became more spiritual on my path, and I do connect with spirit. But yeah, I came across the work of Joseph Campbell from a friend at the time, and he shared it with me in a talk. And it was all about using stories to persuade and influence. And it was to do it, in terms of building your authority and influence, within your marketplace online. And I was just interested in building my audience. So I came along to the talk, and immediately when he talked about Joseph Campbell, I became incredibly hooked, and this is really where my journey began, I believe, because I got as much content and material on Joseph Campbell as I could. Anything I could find, I listened to and watched. And from my perspective, Joseph Campbell is probably one of the earliest spiritual teachers, and I was blown away by his work. And myself, like many of you as well, feel quite lost at times, alone. don't know whether they're coming and going on their journey, you don't know why they're here with regards to their purpose. And when I connected with J.Campbell's work in the hero's journey, it really helped me understand myself and my journey to such a deep level that it was like so profound. And so through that, I began teaching and sharing his work. And I started writing a book, but I haven't finished it yet, still on that journey.
Yay.
It was all about how you can use the hero's journey to connect with your spiritual path. And the hero's journey is a registered trademark, actually, so nobody's really allowed to use it apart from the Joseph Campbell Foundation. And at the time I approached them and said, oh, I'd like to get your blessings, basically. And they said, I'm really sorry, it's a registered trademark. So that was a stepping stone for me. So many people have said to me, look, you should make it your own now. You know this work inside out, and you're so deeply connected with it. And that was the birthing of the Soul Pathway process, which is really more so about how we can understand our spiritual journey and our soul pathway as we understand ourselves. You know, so it's so, whereas Joseph Campbell's work is universal to all of our paths, and so is the soul pathway, my soul pathway process. But with the soul pathway process, I highlight more about our spiritual journey than anything else. And really, that's been my journey of stepping into spirituality and awakening to who I am, you know.
Really interesting. So I'm going to pick a little bit here because that's what I do. But I want to know, because most of us are kind of resistant to doing shadow work, okay? And, you know, I don't actually think I was a resistant. I think for myself, I was probably less aligned with the understanding of what moving into my shadow work would be for me. So when was the point where did you have like a dark night of the soul? Did you have a moment when you fell so far down that you did struggle to get to this point? And what happened in that moment? I just want to understand kind of, because a lot of people go through this and they don't realize what's happening to them. So I think it's good to get that out to sort of the viewers to see how they can maybe relate it to their own experience.
Yeah. For me, it goes back to one of the stages in the soul pathway stuff, which is soul awakening experiences. And soul awakening experiences can be heart shattering. They can take us to our depths and our lows. And I've definitely been there in numerous times. Different awakening experiences highlight different aspects of ourselves, different aspects of our shadow, these things that we've just hidden away. And I'll be honest, it's not easy. You know, it takes us to some really hard places. You know, as I said earlier, when I went through that first breakup at university, it was incredibly challenging, really, really deep. And then, you know, with us talking about love and relationships, I connected with soulmates, who I believe is my twin flame, and that really does take you to a deep, deep level of really questioning and understanding yourself, but a heartbreak on such a deep level that it brings you to your knees, whereby you have no choice but to rise and stand up. You just got no choice. So wherever you are on your journey, whenever you're going through shadow stuff, for me it's simply, it's not simple, but just honoring those emotions, honoring those feelings in those moments, because we could be in these down moments of time for, let's say, weeks or months. We still have to honor that process and know that it's a transitional phase of our path. And we begin to understand so much about ourselves. So when you're in these moments, I say it's all about just questioning, understanding, and looking at where these wounds come from, because they've surfaced for a reason. And we're here to just question what they are so that we can love ourselves.
That's beautiful. I love that, because you know, when I have my clients and stuff, a lot of people find that they struggle with that aspect, with stepping into the shadow, and they struggle with actually taking the look at themselves. I think that can be quite a tricky one. I mean, I can do it because it's something I naturally do, but I think for a lot of people there is that struggle. So I loved what you just said there. That was really good advice. Amazing. So could you explain a bit more what the underlying principles are of Joseph Campbell's work, and what sort of what you've done, sort of what you give in respect to that?
The underlying principles of Joseph Campbell's work.
Well, not all of it, obviously. I mean, like, just because I know it's massive. But yeah, no, you know, just something, just a very, very kind of concise sort of way that you see it, because you've broken it down into 7 principles. So to kind of bring it to that.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. It's a good question. And there are so many different things that he's touched upon over the years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of his influences came from Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud anyway. So it's based on psychology,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously very, very spiritual at the same time. But what the underlying principles, I would say, more than anything, is really about truly understanding yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Jung came up with the first concept of the soul.
Yeah.
The way I use it in my work is our soul is a combination of our ego, our conditioning, our self, our unconscious self, our drivers, motivations, and beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Something that drives us each and every day that we don't realize, but it's within all of us.
Exactly.
And then the unconscious shadow and those suppressed and repressed emotions. So how we understand our soul as an individual anyway, but then the fundamentals of Joseph Campbell's work and what made him famous in a way is the hero's journey, and the fact that we all have a journey and we all have a path. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you're from, we all have a journey. And it's about honoring your journey so that you can understand yourself. And in essence, you know, what he describes as becoming the hero in your own life.
Exactly, yeah.
For me, it's just about truly awakening to who you are.
Yeah.
And when it comes to divine love and really loving and accepting ourselves, because, you know, from my perspective and the way I look at it nowadays, our journey is more so about becoming whole and at one with ourselves, like the balance of the masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
Really finding that peace and contentment within, as if nothing else matters. Like, not in a harsh way, but most important person in your life is you.
Exactly. Yes, you know, that's my sentiments.
But it's not to discredit anybody else. Like,
No, of course.
Like even your partner, your children, those people you hold so dear. If you don't start with yourself, you can't truly love them.
Exactly.
Because when you're going through shadow stuff and you're hurt and you're experiencing these dark emotions and feelings, however much a healer and therapist can help you, the only person that can take that step is you.
Yeah.
You know, and in those moments, you're not able to help other people in those moments of shadow, in those moments of despair. You focus on yourself so that then you can give your unconditional love to others, you know. So.
Beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. I love that. I love how you said that. That's so beautiful, and it's so true. And it's kind of a bit goosebumpy. It's a really lovely, beautiful sentiment. Amazing. So what I want to know a little bit more about is balancing the masculine and feminine, because I think a lot of people struggle with that. I think a lot of people, they know the concept and they understand the concepts of it. But I mean, obviously I'm really aware of it because I teach yoga, but for a lot of people, the understanding of that can be a little bit over there and they don't really get it. So could you sort of, in your own words and how you see it, describe what that is for you?
Okay. So the way I like to look at the masculine and feminine is to speak about archetypes. because archetypes are a beautiful way to understand our own consciousness as well as our own conditioning. So the archetypes that I speak about with regards to the masculine and feminine is, the archetypal warrior, and then the caregiver. So the caregiver is the feminine role, and the warrior is the masculine role. But if we start at the beginning of our journey, because archetypes evolve in consciousness just like we do. Conditionally, we can begin our journey as the caregiver, let's say. We give our unconditional love, care, and support to those around us. And if you're a woman, quite naturally, more than men, you innately have this desire to give your love. Like you would raise a child, from a traditional aspects, women had been the person that would stay at home and look after the children, raise them, because you're always beautiful at giving that love. So we start off from that conditional masculine or feminine, first of all, and the masculine. So what is the conditional masculine? Which is the warrior. The warrior from a conditional aspect is the one that goes to fight to get to what they want in their lives. But who do they fight for? They fight for their wife, they fight for their family, they fight to bring home the money, to be the breadwinner, so to speak. But these are conditional aspects, and it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. There's a lot of women who are quite highly dominant in the masculine energy anyway, and the same with the feminine. I find myself more connected with the feminine energy nowadays. But how do we rise up above that? And the balancing of the masculine and feminine, this is where it all comes into play, because the rising of the feminine says, you as a woman, you have to love yourself and your children as much as, well, you have to love yourself just as much as you love your children, just as much as you love your husband, or partner. So you rise in love, and you realize that it's essential for you to have that balance within, because when you look at the shadow and look at the shadow aspect of the feminine and the caregiver, you become the suffering martyr to yourself. Like we give and give in our lives, and then yet we realize that we're not receiving, and we cause a lot of harm and pain to ourselves. Neglect, unworthiness. Oh, you're not worthy of this or that. When in hindsight, you look within and say, you're beautiful and unique just the way you are. You just got to love yourself. And it's rising in love to say, how can I appreciate myself in the wholeness of who I am? And then the masculine that rises is all about stepping into that role of fighting the altruistic fight, fighting with purpose, fighting with passion, fighting for a cause at which you believe in. But what do you do when you raise in the masculine? You begin to allow yourself to raise in the feminine as well. So the masculine rises to be the warrior on a higher level of consciousness, but the heart comes into play with the feminine. So the heart-centered fight, that cause you fight for every day, that love that you give, and say, I'm here to give my all and do all that I can, but at the same time not become that suffering martyr. And also from the conditional aspect, not neglect other people on their journey. We have to understand that we're all on our journey and path. We have to respect one another within that,
That's really true. It really is true. The feminine and masculine thing is a very interesting one. So we're going to come to closing questions now. So these are just fun questions, really. If you could give us one of your favorite books recommendations, maybe fiction and non-fiction, what would they be?
Oh God, I'm not a massive reader, to be honest.
Are you not? Well, don't give me music then, or podcasts or something.
I do have my book somewhere one of my favorite books, which is a lot of my work is about shamanism. So the shamanic book that I would recommend is The Wind Is My Mother by Bearheart. And it's a beautiful book, absolutely beautiful. It's about the life and teachings of a Native American shaman.
Wow.
Beautiful book. And I could listen to it over and over again. I read it as well. Definitely one of my favorite book. So non-fiction now then. I don't know really.
If you don't read much, that's fine. I don't mind. It's just that I'm a big reader, so I tend to ask this question, and then lots of people go, I don't read.
There's another one that I like, and it's more of a self-help one. And someone told me to first of all read the book, and I got hold of the film. The book and the film are very similar, and it's, again, this is a true story. Anyway, it's I'm just trying to think. It's called The Peaceful Warrior.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
And that's, for me, that's a lovely story about a man that was a gymnast, that had very much lived from a place of ego.
Okay.
And he came to a place of peace in his life. Wayne Dyer, The Shift.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I've seen it so many times, and I go back to and reference it a lot. Love it. But so many different,
Okay. Well, that kind of presupposes my next question, which was, what's your favourite film, or could you give us a favourite film? Cheeky.
It would be probably The Shift. Yeah, I could watch that over and over again.
What about a non sort of spiritual film, something that you've just watched that was just your normal Andy time? Or don't tell me you don't have that.
I used to love. Well, there's a film that I watched recently again, which was The Last Samurai.
Oh, that's a great film.
Yeah, that was. I was going to do a video about that actually. Yeah, very good film, and I did like The Lord of the Rings, but they weren't sort of up there in my favourites really. They were fantastic films, obviously. There were a few other films. I mean, I watched The Matrix. I can't remember. Yeah.
All right, you don't have to have one. You're giving me loads. It's only like one favourite film. It's just, it's kind of for the viewers to kind of get to know you a little bit. So Andy, can you also tell our viewers, before we say goodbye, how they can find you and your handles and stuff? You just say them. I will put them down in the comments, sorry, in the notes, guys, but just so that Andy can say them for you. I
would say that the best place to find me is on my website, which is www.thesoulpathway.com. I'm also on Insight Timer though. Insight Timer is an app I love to use, which provides guided meditations, and I often do Soul Pathway Sundays, which is all about helping you disconnect from the week that's passed so that you can just reconnect with your soul. And I deliver Soul Pathway readings as well to look at the energy of the week ahead. But you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not active on Facebook anymore, but I've also got a Telegram channel where I often share content as well.
Thank you so much, Andy, for joining us. Everyone, you know where to find me. You can go to my website at www.selfloveselfcaresystem.com. You can go to my Facebook pages. All details are down in the notes. If you want readings or anything, you know where I am. Thank you very much for watching, and we're really glad that you joined us today. Thank you very much, and namaste everyone, and take care, and we will see you soon. Bye kisses. Bye.